Hey guys, it's Jamie, bringing you recovery-inspired hope here on my YouTube channel, Jamie Tall. Make sure you check it out and subscribe. So we have a great interview today with my amazing friend, Lucy Stelmack. Lucy does spiritual fitness with me on Tuesdays at 7:30, Facebook Live, Divas Who Win Freedom Center. Make sure you guys check it out. Lucy and I have known each other for
almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years. So I was actually Lucy's first sponsor, and I've always just adored her and her spirituality and her openness and willingness and her strength. She's a very, very strong woman. So you guys are going to get to find out a little bit about Lucy today. So Lucy, why don't you go ahead and you tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Lucy. I have December will be 3 years of clean and sober sobriety time. I am a yoga teacher. I am an aspiring Reiki practitioner soon, hopefully. I take my classes Saturday for that. I am very active in just like anything spiritual. Like I said, I teach yoga. I just kind of like dabble in a whole bunch of things that make me feel connected to like everything.
Yeah. Awesome. So tell me about your journey, how you ended up getting into recovery.
So I had a very I always feel like it was very unconventional story of getting to rehab. I fought it as hard as I could.
I don't think that's unconventional. That sounds pretty
normal.
That
sounds pretty normal. I say unconventional because what led me to going into treatment was actually not like drug related. It was wanting out of being surrounded by people, places, and things. I actually used the fact that I had so many days clean as an excuse not to go into like treatment. All the things that kept happening, it felt like dominoes just kept falling. Like the first domino that fell was I felt like I was losing my mind and I needed to put drugs down. So I did it and I thought they would stop falling. But then I ended up getting arrested for being with someone who I shouldn't have been with. And that just started the snowball of effects of being publicly shown as a drug addict. I ended up on the front page of the newspaper of my hometown for actually a charge that I didn't receive. And that was very traumatizing to me. And there was all these things that happened that it was a way to show me that I needed to move past that. And that's what actually pushed me into going into recovery. It wasn't necessarily my drug problem. But it was a great thing because going in and being around the influence of recovery kind of showed me that like there was a problem, because I definitely went in and I was like, I don't have a problem, like I can stop whenever I want to. And relapse is not a part of my story, but I feel like that is only because I was able to learn from the people and what they were telling me, and it just didn't happen because I listened and I accepted what they said, and I embodied, and I integrated recovery into my lifestyle. So
you followed suggestions early on. Yes. And God makes his will inescapable.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was nothing that I could have done, I think, to escape like what happened. It was like you're going whether you like it or not, or I'm going to make everything else like lead you to it. And that is exactly what happened.
Now you had a little bit of you did do the regular 12-step while you were in your 1-year treatment program, but you also had some unconventional pathways that not many people at that time saw as the multiple pathways to recovery that we recognize as today. So what led you to find these other pathways?
Like when it comes to stuff like that, I feel like it was just already like in me to be curiosity is a big part of it. But there was also something already there that made me curious about what I consider my other pathways being, like yoga and the spiritual community that I kind of got involved with. Like I came from Moultrie, Georgia into Athens, and like I already knew coming in, like, oh, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to see what I can find about this. And it just so happened that Athens had it. So it was available to me. But there was already this burning desire in me that led me to these things.
And definitely it was always very unique, but I always thought, whatever works for you in recovery, do more of it. Whatever is working for you. There's no one way, and I'm so grateful for you that you speak out about your recovery. And even in the yoga community, you are like an educator. You educate people in yoga and give people the chance to speak and say, and you give recovery a beautiful face and a good name, I always say that when I lost my anonymity, my chains of guilt and shame broke off. And you also had, the way I went through step work, you went through your yoga training, and it was so amazing because you were saying that you found that people who were also training, who were not in recovery, had like the same issues.
Well, I think that's because as there's like multiple pathways to recovery, like recovery is a process of healing. And there's, every person, I think just about every person has something they're healing from. Like the 12 steps are, they're incorporated from spiritual beliefs of healing.
Yes.
You can apply them to like any process of growth or healing that needs to take place. And especially when it comes to the yoga, like yoga is a way for me and for many other people to connect your body, your spirit, your mind all together in a physical practice of healing. Like I did like you said, my first year, I did the 12 steps, and like that was great. I suggest anytime, even though I have a different pathway, I always suggest like your first year of recovery is like the 12-step program is best. That is something I firmly believe because it gives you a great foundation of learning. And after that, if there's something that, you want to incorporate in, or even before, you can start before. I'm just a big yes for 12-step programs because it's not just recovery based. Like people, like I'll read books and it's not about addiction or alcoholism. And it's like they always reference the 12 steps because they're so powerful. Even in my yoga training, the books that we read, like they reference the 12 steps.
Wow. Wow. I did not know that.
Yes.
And the most resistance that I have gotten from leading women to the 12 steps is the God factor. What would you say about somebody who didn't want to look into any kind of step program or recovery because they didn't want to hear about God?
I would first say, like, I was one of those people. It was very hard. The first place I went to, it was very hard for me to resonate with what was being said. I was just so fortunate to find at the first place that I went to, I was fortunate enough to find some spiritual magazines that I was able to read and interpret and to find that like, oh, I do believe this way. Like I might not like the word God, but like I don't mind it when they say it like this. And I think that, there's so many people that is an issue. And it's, when I think about multiple pathways to recovery, I also think about like multiple pathways in spirituality. Like I've actually never been a person who's been okay with like knowing like there's one way and that is the only way. Like when I started to branch out in my recovery, like I remember that being a driving factor. Mm-hmm. So for people who have a hard time with, the concept or the idea of God, like I say a lot that, NA and AA, the greatest gift that they gave me was a place to be curious about spirituality. Because, in those rooms, they don't care what you believe. Like you can hear people say they believed in a rock and
or a doorknob,
yeah. And you'll hear these things where you might not agree with it, but no one's calling anyone out about it.
Right.
And it's a safe place and a safe community to ask questions and to see like what people believe. And the only thing I can suggest is to be open-minded about open-minded. Like no one is trying to force you to believe in God or a certain religion or anything like that. It's just the term God is such a easier and more traditional way to say higher power, something greater than yourself that has the ability to bring you to a higher self. That's really my words too, because you can think of higher powers as like gravity. Like we don't have control over gravity, but it exists and it keeps us in place on the planet. And there's just, I went through all of this when I was going through recovery. I was like, what do I believe in?
I remember this. So we had this conversation, which is why I wanted Lucy to talk about this.
It's, I think that especially with religion, how it is today, and like there's so much, like there's a lot of people who have some misconceptions and some, honestly, like wounds from what people have told them to believe or how to believe, that the process of recovery, like, yeah, that was the greatest gift, to just be able to ask questions and not have to be scared to have an opinion. And to also know that like this person believes in a doorknob and they have 5 years sober.
Right.
And it's powerful. It's powerful because no one can be like, oh, well, you believe the wrong thing.
Right.
Like if it's keeping you clean and it's working, then you're right on track. And like that is exactly what I needed coming into recovery, was the safe space and then the ability to like expand my mind from what I had learned and had previously thought that God or religion or, any of that was.
And tell me, why do you believe it's important for especially women? Because I feel like in some places we may have an advantage in resources as far as recovery goes, but in a lot of places I feel like women are disadvantaged in our walk in recovery due to like some of the challenges we face. Do you
can you give me like an example?
Like less paying jobs.
Okay, like that.
Like having to be like really careful when you go to meetings in the beginning as to who wants to give you a ride home.
Yeah.
Or
I think that Divas is very great at kind of softening that. I see a lot of like women leading these things and that's very powerful because like AA, I believe, is more male dominated. I can remember going into meetings and there being so many men, and it even talks about like in the big book that women are like more susceptible to alcoholism just due to like the daily struggles and like the disadvantages that we face in society. It's more socially acceptable for a man to drink more than a woman. And there's just, I would definitely say that I would acknowledge that those issues are there. And it's also so important that coming into recovery that you build a network of strong women. And it's scary. I remember like, you come in, or I came in and I didn't I was like, I don't want to be friends with anyone. But, you know, I always think about, like, the people that you associate with. Like, you want those people to be people that you look up to, that you admire, that they have something that you want. You'll hear that in recovery a lot. Like, they had something that I wanted, so I added them to my network. I asked them to be my sponsor. I listened to what they said in meetings. I read what they would post. Like, you want to absorb all of that knowledge and to meet it with, you know, like a teachable mindset.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's definitely in early recovery, there's definitely, I would say, the way it's handled, even at programs with men and women, is different. You know, I've heard women say that the programs they go to are more, like, tough on the women and more lenient on the men. And that's just, you know, that's really neither here nor there. I've only been to one, so I can't say, like, I know this for a fact. Right. But even if that's the case, like, you have to look at those, you just have to look at those things and accept them for what they are, and just know that, like, you're still worth going through it, even if it's happening. Like, just because, like, if that's something that you're dealing with, like, you know, let it be harder and just come out the other side stronger.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely not ideal, but it is doable. I can definitely say that I've seen the same people who have had these opinions still make it through.
Yep, for sure. They say, you know, nothing valuable is going to be easy.
Yeah.
For sure. So what advice would you give to a woman who is thinking about possibly coming into recovery?
I would suggest, if possible, if they were going to, like, a treatment facility, an all-women's treatment facility would be my first suggestion. Like, if it was in Athens, I think, like, FFB is. Yeah, I would definitely say that, just because you're gonna meet more women and build like, a lot of friendships, and there's just less drama. You wouldn't think that because it's a bunch of women. You would go in with the mindset it wouldn't, but I'm pretty sure it would be. But I would also, I would just say, like, find strong women to look up to, definitely get a sponsor, and, like, depending on the pathway of recovery, you know, like, if it's a 12-step program, then get a sponsor. But I always am going to suggest, like, no matter what, to, like, find some kind of exercise practice. Like, for me, that is yoga. For others, it could be, you know, like, any kind of things. And the reason I suggest that is because coming into recovery, your brain from drug use is going to be, like, the chemicals are going to be, like, imbalanced, and endorphins naturally occur from exercise.
Yes.
It will also save you the obsession. I hear so many women new in recovery, and they're like, my body just doesn't look how I want it to look. I have gained so much weight. And, you know, we as women live in a society that it's stigma that, like, we're supposed to look a certain way. We're supposed to act a certain way. And, like, my biggest thing that I learned was that, like, my body needs to look how it looks, like it's healing. It's in the process of balancing hormones, balancing chemicals. But the connection that you get from exercising allows your body to feel taken care of. It also allows you to create a mind-body connection. Like, if your mind is into just, like, movement as self-care, you're connecting with your body as that physical practice happens. And that's what yoga did for me. It connected me to the idea of, like, safety and peace in my body that I didn't have a connection with before. I know you run, and I've heard other people say, like, running was a way for them to get out of their head and get their anxieties out and their frustrations, that like it physically moves it out of your
Yes,
body instead of
absolutely.
just holding it in. And I find that on days when I exercise and I'm active, like I'm just like, I'm a little bit less obsessed about what I put in my body. I'm just like,
absolutely.
I like did these things. So if I want to eat a little extra, like I might need the energy, and I'm a little bit softer on myself when I know that I'm taking care of myself, because it's an equal trade there.
Yes. We just did an interview with Athens Fit Body Boot Camp about fitness and recovery with our friend Michelle, and it was so good. It was, and it's true. Recovery weight is real. I had an amazing fitness transformation. By the time I think I had 6 months sober, I just celebrated 5 years yesterday. But by the time I was 6 months sober, I had gained, I was up, I was in a size 22. I'm in a size 8 now. So, and I've lost about 60 pounds. So yeah, it's been 65 pounds. Yeah. So and that was just at 6 months. Like between the day coming into 6 months, I gained all of that. And it wasn't until I had about 18 months did I start working on myself, on my transformation, my fitness transformation. But if I would have started, in the beginning, it's like we're just trying so hard to stay sober. We're a lot of us are white knuckling it. A lot of us are just, trying to stay in that moment and not pick up that day. But I definitely feel like if I could give a suggestion to any treatment program, it would be to add in a time of physical activity.
Yeah. And just to be clear, like not in a diet culture, like you're not doing this movement to lose weight or to stop your weight gain. Your intention behind it should be to connect back to your body. Because if you think about when you were using, or if I think about when I was using, I did not listen to my body. My body was ready for me to stop putting things in it, and I did not listen. My body was getting sick. It was getting tired. It was weak. I looked, horrible. And that was me neglecting my body. Like we have to build that connection to our bodies back. It's not about weight. It's not about like the number on the scale or the size of anything. It's to really learn, like, how does it feel to be in my body? How does it feel to be hungry? How does it feel to be full? How do I know that I'm tired and I need to rest? It's a mental connection that, when we're using, like, we lose that connection. And it's so important. I've heard so many women, and especially like new in recovery, where they struggle so hard with weight that it's an incentive to go back.
It's a trigger.
It's such a trigger,
because we know we can just use for a couple days, a week, and it literally will come off, and it's like it's very sick thinking.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like I can't say how many times I've seen people like, oh, like I wish I looked like that. And I mean, I'm still guilty of having some of those pictures on my phone. I don't look at them. They're just like on my Snapchat memories. But, you have to get out of the mindset that like you looked good sick.
Yes.
Like and that takes a while.
Absolutely.
It takes a while because until we are no longer identifying as sick, we're not able to see that we looked sick. And I remember when that happened for me. I remember I was just like having memories come up and I saw them and I was like, oh my gosh, like how did I do that to myself? And it was like something switched. I went from being like, oh gosh, I looked so great back then to like, oh my gosh. And it really, for me, it was like once I started getting healthier, I was able to see myself as how I looked back then as unhealthy.
Wow. Yeah, it's so true too, because when you look back at your old pictures, you see like your eyes are just like my eyes were just dead, dead, like they were empty. There was nothing in them. And I looked completely different. I mean, completely different. So, wow, yes, that's an important topic. We'll have to do another video on that another time, because that's That's for real stuff. All right. Well, thank you so much, Lucy, for joining us on Recovery Inspired Hope. My name is Jamie, and make sure you subscribe to my Jamie Tall YouTube channel. Bye.